Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. You ever been erased in real time? Not screamed at, not cheated on, just deleted. Silently. Efficiently. It happened on a Wednesday. I just walked into the kitchen, work bag still in hand, asked her if she wanted to finish that Netflix series we started. Her eyes didn't even leave the screen. She just said flatly, "You're not exciting. You're just convenient." That word, convenient. It dropped like ice water down my spine. She didn't blink, didn't smirk, just let it sit between us, like it was nothing. I stood there, one hand still gripping the counter, heartbeat stuttering in my ears. I was waiting for a laugh, a smirk, something that would take it back. But she kept scrolling, and I knew that wasn't a slip. That was a statement. She wasn't angry. She was done. And in that exact moment, so was I. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg for clarity. I didn't ask what she meant. I just nodded slowly and left the room. But something shifted inside me. Quiet, cold, permanent. It wasn't just what she said. It was what had built up for months. The locked phone, the changed wardrobe, the new tone in her voice every time I asked a simple question. Like I was a child interrupting a meeting. She was changing, sure. Finding herself. Reclaiming her independence. I clapped the loudest when she landed that branding client. Helped her rehearse her first webinar, even bought the ring light she needed for her new IG reels. But somewhere between affirmations and avocado toast, she decided I was the weight she needed to drop. And what did I do? I let her, but not like she expected. I didn't cry. I didn't lash out. I didn't slam doors or write long texts at 2 a.m. No. I did the one thing she wasn't ready for. I went silent. She said I wasn't exciting? Let's see how thrilling silence can be. Let's see how convenient I feel when I stop fixing the router, stop checking the oil in her car, stop noticing when she runs out of oat milk or forgets to pay the power bill. Let's see what happens when I go from husband to ghost. Because she didn't just kill the conversation. She flipped the switch on everything. And what she didn't realize, that was the last time she'd ever feel in control of me again. The first sign came through someone else. That's always how it starts. We were at a friend's birthday. A rooftop thing. City lights. Cheap cocktails, too many influencers trying too hard. She was radiant, of course. Tight dress, hair down, laughing louder than usual. I kept to the edges, beer in hand, nodding where I had to. Then someone leaned in, Jordan, an old college buddy. He didn't mean anything by it, but the words landed like a nail through glass. "Man, I thought you guys split. She's been out here acting like she's single." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just the way she talks. Like she's figuring things out. Reinventing herself. You know how it is." I nodded, but something inside me curled. She hadn't told anyone we were separated, because we weren't. But apparently, her performance said otherwise. I watched her from across the rooftop, surrounded by a half circle of men and women, all captivated. She was talking with her hands. Laughing. Like I didn't exist. And maybe, in her world, I didn't. Later that night, back at home, she kicked off her heels like the evening never happened. Took off her makeup, wrapped her hair in a towel, and scrolled her phone while brushing her teeth. I stood in the doorway, watching her. I didn't ask her what Jordan meant. I didn't ask who she was trying to impress. I just watched, collected data, studied the performance she didn't realize I'd caught. And then I started noticing more. Little details. She started hiding her phone when I entered the room, locking the screen with a flick. Her laughter changed pitch when she read certain messages. She wasn't cheating, not yet. But the bridge was halfway burned. And me? I went colder. No accusations. No guilt trips. Just subtle withdrawals. I stopped asking about her day. Stopped offering to pick up her favorite snacks. When she asked if I could help her with a client presentation, I told her I was tired. Then I said nothing at all. She started noticing. Not outwardly. Not yet. But the shift was happening. And I wasn't done. One night, while she showered, I opened her laptop. Just curiosity. Nothing more. She hadn't logged out of her email. I didn't dig. Didn't scroll. I saw just enough. Just enough to know there were messages from a man named Mark. Frequent. Familiar. Always late at night. I closed the laptop. Said nothing. She thought she was being discreet. She thought I wasn't paying attention. But every detail was now evidence. Not for court. Not for confrontation. For strategy. She had drawn first blood, emotionally, socially. Now it was my turn to vanish. Not physically, just from her narrative. She wanted independence. She'd soon choke on it. This wasn't revenge. This was precision. The confirmation didn't come with fireworks. No lipstick on a collar. No unfamiliar scent. Just a quiet digital trail that someone less attentive would have missed. But I wasn't inattentive anymore. I was alert, focused, methodical. It started with her routines. She used to keep her phone on the kitchen counter while cooking, notifications popping up freely. Now it never left her side. She started using headphones during FaceTime calls. She started wearing perfume to quick errands. None of this proved anything. But I wasn't looking for proof. I was watching patterns. And patterns always reveal the truth. One morning, she left for yoga class. But the studio's app still lived on our shared iPad. And her check-in history? Empty. For 3 weeks straight. She wasn't doing downward dog. She was doing something else. Someone else. Still, I didn't confront her. Confrontation is an emotional response. Emotion was no longer part of my operating system. I checked our shared credit card account. Not to spy, just to validate a suspicion. There it was. Restaurant charges. Not just dinners, lunches too. Places we never went together. A wine bar that needed a reservation. A hotel bar on a Thursday afternoon. It wasn't the money that mattered. It was the timeline, the overlap, and the silence that followed each long meeting or client lunch. She had no idea I knew. That was the key. That night, she walked into the bedroom wrapped in a towel, damp hair curling over her shoulders. She asked if I'd seen her gray hoodie. I said no, without looking up. I was staring at the ceiling. She didn't press. Didn't care. She'd already left emotionally. She thought I was too numb to notice. But I was documenting, logging every inconsistency, watching her dig a hole with manicured hands. When she slept, I stayed awake. When she smiled, I studied the shape of it. It was no longer mine. The final piece came via slip-up. She left her laptop open. A message popped up on the screen, just one line. Last night was worth the risk. I didn't need to read the rest. I didn't scream. I didn't slam anything. I just closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge. Cold water. 1 glass. I drank it slowly, because now I had everything I needed. I wasn't just a man with a broken heart. I was a man with a plan. And that plan began with silence. You see, she hadn't just betrayed me. She underestimated me. And the most dangerous kind of man is the one who lets you. The next morning, I made coffee for one. Didn't offer her any. She asked if I was okay. I smiled without warmth. Just thinking, I said. And in my head, I was already gone. The day I disappeared didn't start with drama. No suitcase by the door. No slammed doors or stormy exit. Just a slow, deliberate fade. I left for work at 6:30 a.m., earlier than usual. She was still asleep, one leg tangled in the sheets, phone clutched loosely in her hand. Probably dreaming of someone else. I didn't kiss her forehead like I used to. I didn't pull the blanket up to her shoulders. I didn't even look back. Instead, I drove past my office. Kept going. 2 hours north, into a small lakeside town where no one knew me. By noon, I had a temporary rental under another name. A studio loft with high ceilings and no memories. No framed photos. No perfume clinging to pillowcases. Just air, silence, and space. I turned off my phone. Not airplane mode. Powered off. Dropped it in the drawer. It buzzed once before dying. Probably her. Maybe not. I watched the screen go dark and felt something uncoil in my chest. Freedom. That night, I logged into the joint account. Transferred funds. Not all of it. Just enough to cut her oxygen supply. Froze 2 cards. Redirected paycheck deposits to a separate bank. Not revenge. Just self-preservation. I didn't text. I didn't email. I didn't leave a note. For her, the silence started at 6:30 a.m. And kept expanding. By day 2, she called 6 times. No voicemails. Just the panic of unanswered rings. By day 3, she texted, "Where are you?" I didn't answer. Then, "Are you okay?" I still didn't answer. On day 4, she messaged my coworker. He played dumb. Said he thought I was working remotely. Which, technically I was. I answered emails. Scheduled calls. Hit deadlines. Business as usual. But at night, I walked the quiet streets of a town she'd never visited. Ate alone in diners where no one asked personal questions. Slept in a bed that didn't smell like betrayal. She, meanwhile, was unraveling. By the end of the week, she was calling from blocked numbers. messaging through Instagram, emailing me poems, old photos, half apologies. But she still hadn't confessed. She thought I'd left in a fit of sadness, that I was brooding somewhere, waiting for her to say the right words. She had no idea I was done playing the role of the fool. She was drowning in her own silence now, and every unanswered message was a mirror. The worst part for her? She couldn't prove I was angry. There was no fight to point to, no scene, no betrayal from me to lean on. Just absence. And absence, when done right, is surgical. I wasn't coming back. Not emotionally. Not physically. Not even as a memory. She had crossed a line I never spoke about. The kind of line where love doesn't end. It erodes, atom by atom, until there's nothing left but dust. And that's what I gave her. The dust of who I used to be. And the echo of a man she never really knew. She had a type. Mark was just a newer version of the same mistake. The kind of man who wore cologne to the gym, talked over waiters, and took selfies in elevators. But none of that mattered. What mattered was leverage. It took less than 2 days to learn everything about him. His full name, where he worked, the startup he bragged about on LinkedIn, the funding round he lied about closing. I read his company's pitch deck, saw the red flags, the inflated numbers, the phantom investors. Amateur hour. The deeper I dug, the sloppier he looked. He wasn't dangerous. He was weak, reckless, and reckless men leave footprints. His Instagram was a goldmine. Tagged in stories he probably forgot about. Comments from colleagues that hinted at office drama. One post, in particular, stood out. A group shot from a retreat. Champagne. Smiles. One of the women had commented, "Hope HR never sees this." That was all I needed. I traced it back to the company's internal page. Found a name. Then an email format. I created a fake inbox. Attached 3 screenshots. Blurred faces, highlighted captions, a friendly message from a concerned associate. No threats. No accusations. Just a gentle suggestion that someone should look into this before investors start asking questions. I hit send. Within 48 hours, his company pulled the photo from all socials. His profile went private. Comments disappeared. Digital panic, cleanup mode. I smiled. She had bet everything on a man too shallow to cover his own tracks. And I never had to say a word. While he panicked in meetings, probably explaining away his indiscretions, I stayed quiet. I stayed invisible. But I was always watching. Back home, if you could still call it that, she was spiraling. The texts changed tone. Less, "Where are you?" More, "Can we talk?" And I messed up. But no confession. No truth. She thought if she reached out first, it'd erase the past. She didn't know I already burned the bridge. She also didn't know I'd set fire to the lifeboat she was swimming toward. I wasn't angry at her affair. I was disgusted by the predictability of it. The man. The timing. The excuses. She didn't fall in love. She fell into convenience dressed as excitement. Now that excitement was costing him more than he expected. And soon, it would cost her everything. Because this wasn't about payback. It was about closing the circle. Tight. Silent. Absolute. She thought I was retreating. I wasn't. I was positioning myself for checkmate. The first real fracture wasn't private. It happened at her sister's baby shower. I wasn't invited. That was expected. But people still asked about me. Friends. Cousins. Her father. She told them we were taking space, that I was on a work trip, finding clarity. But the cracks showed when her mother pulled her aside and asked why I hadn't posted anything in weeks. Why I'd unfollowed her. Why our shared photos vanished from my profile overnight. Because I didn't block her. I did something worse. I deleted her. All traces of our life together, gone. No anniversary dinner. No beach trip selfies. No, just us, candid she begged me to post. I left her with nothing to screenshot. Nothing to circle back to. Nothing to use for sympathy. That kind of silence echoes louder than any accusation. And people noticed. Her cousin texted me, saying, "You okay, man? Heard weird stuff." I left it on read. A friend of hers, one I always suspected of knowing more than she let on, DM'd me, asking if the rumors were true. Again, no reply. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I simply vanished from her version of the narrative. And without my presence, her story started to fall apart. People stopped smiling at her posts. Comments slowed. DMs dried up. It's hard to play the role of victim when the other party refuses to play the villain. Meanwhile, I invited her parents for coffee. Yes, her parents. They always liked me. Her dad respected how I treated her. Her mom once told me I brought out the best in her. So I sat them down, calmly, and said I needed to be honest about where things stood. I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I told them she was in a relationship trial with another man, and I had quietly stepped aside to let her figure things out. Her mother's hands trembled around her cup. Her father stared at the table like he wanted to flip it over. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. They knew. And more importantly, now everyone would know. Not because I exposed her, because I let her expose herself. She tried to take control of the narrative, but you can't control silence. You can't outtalk someone who refuses to speak. And that's what haunted her. Not my absence. Not even the guilt. It was the growing awareness that people were seeing her differently, and I wasn't lifting a finger to make it happen. By the end of that week, she posted a photo of herself alone, some caption about new chapters and healing. But the likes were low. Comments empty. She was learning, slowly, that silence spreads. And in mine, her image began to collapse. I always believe people don't break when they're alone. They break when they feel forgotten. When the phone stops buzzing. When no one's asking where they've been. And that's exactly what started happening to her. The man she'd risked everything for? He pulled away too. Mark, the great escape plan, turned out to be just another distraction on a long list of things she thought would save her from herself. Their messages went from hourly to daily. Then every other day. Then nothing. He'd done what all men like him do. Vanished the moment attention turned to consequences. There were rumors he lost funding, maybe got reported. She wouldn't know I was the one who initiated the collapse. She just knew he ghosted her. And when she looked around, expecting someone to help her process it, she found silence. Her sister stopped responding to texts. Her friends gave neutral emojis under her vague, self-help quotes. Even her mother started shortening phone calls. No one was cruel. They just weren't invested anymore. Because when your image cracks, people don't rush in to fix it. They step away, afraid of the mess. Meanwhile, I stayed present but untouchable. I responded to group chats. I attended one mutual event, nodded politely when her name came up. I didn't correct anyone. I didn't clarify anything. I just let their imaginations fill in the blanks. And the blanks always speak louder than facts. Back in her apartment, which she now occupied alone, she started to spiral in subtle ways. She changed her profile picture twice in one day. She removed wife from her bio. She posted a story from the exact restaurant we used to go to on anniversaries. But this time, she was alone. Or pretending to be. She wanted me to see it. She wanted me to feel something. But I had nothing left to give. The more she reached, the colder I became. She sent a message one night, 4 paragraphs long. Apologies wrapped in half-truths. Explanations disguised as introspection. I didn't reply. She followed it with a voice note. I didn't even open it. And that's when it hit her, really hit her. This wasn't a pause. This was the end. She was no longer in control of anything. Not me, not her narrative, not even her own defense. Because when you spend so long trying to be seen, the worst punishment isn't being yelled at, it's being ignored. She didn't know what to do with the quiet. She had always relied on noise, attention, drama, chaos, validation. But now she was just another person talking into a void I no longer occupied. And in that void, her voice started to crack. The knock on my door came on a Sunday evening. I didn't flinch. I knew it was her. She stood there holding a tote bag like it was a shield. No makeup, hoodie pulled over her head. Like she was trying to shrink herself small enough to fit into the space she'd burned. I didn't invite her in. She walked past me anyway. Inside, she looked around, her eyes scanning the room like she expected familiarity. But everything was different. New couch, new shelves, walls repainted. Even the air smelled different, like wood and leather, not vanilla and rose. She hesitated, asked if I'd moved recently. I said nothing. That silence made her nervous. She sat down like she was waiting for permission. She started talking, not knowing where to begin. She mentioned work, said things were overwhelming lately. Mentioned her therapist. Said she'd been reflecting a lot. I still didn't speak. She shifted in her seat, started fumbling. Said she missed us. Said she understood if I was angry. Said she never meant to hurt me. That it wasn't supposed to go that far. That phrase. Like she had fallen into someone else's arms by accident. Like the wine poured itself. Like she just tripped into betrayal. Then she asked if we could talk. I finally answered. We are talking. She froze. That's not what she wanted. She wanted pleading. emotion, some glimpse of the old version of me that would have done anything to fix what she broke. Instead, I stayed cold, and that shook her more than 1,000 insults would have. She asked if I hated her. I said no. She asked if I still loved her. I looked her in the eyes and said, I don't feel anything at all. That one sentence hit harder than shouting ever could. Her face crumpled, but she didn't cry. Not yet. She just sat there, realizing that the door she thought was still slightly open had been welded shut. She said she made a mistake. I didn't respond. She said she thought I needed time. I said, I didn't need time. I needed clarity. And I got it. That's when the tears came, not soft, graceful ones. Panicked tears. She realized this wasn't a performance she could rewrite. There was no applause coming. No encore. She asked what came next. I stood, walked to the counter, picked up the envelope I'd been keeping for the right moment. Inside, the final documents. Her signature was the only thing missing. I handed them to her without a word. She didn't open it at first. Just stared at me. Whispered that she still loved me. I nodded. Quietly. And I told her, love isn't always enough. Not after trust dies. She asked one last time, is this really it? I said yes. Calmly. Without pause. Because the difference between me now and the man she left? He would have begged. I just ended it. After that night, she didn't call again. At least, not directly. Instead, I saw it in echoes. Mutuals messaging out of the blue, her cousin asking if I was doing okay. A friend of hers liking an old photo of us from 2 years ago. The slow, desperate orbit of someone hoping I'd notice the gravity pulling at her life. But I didn't engage. I didn't need to. Because her world was shrinking. The man she thought would replace me had gone radio silent. Word was, his company folded. Investors walked. The HR whispers I started turned into internal reviews. He didn't just lose her, he lost his platform. She tried to move on publicly. Posted curated pictures of her smiling with acquaintances, pretending the silence didn't sting. But silence is a slow burn. You don't feel it at first. And then, suddenly, it's everywhere. Her sister stopped defending her. Her best friend took a job in another city and ghosted her slowly, one unanswered brunch invite at a time. Even her building changed. The new neighbor she tried to flirt with? Married. The barista she used to charm? Transferred. She was surrounded by people, but completely alone. And the worst part? No one had slammed a door in her face. They just stopped opening them. Because no one wanted to be part of a story that reeked of regret. Meanwhile, I was already building something new. Quietly. Deliberately. I moved to a new place. Not far, but far enough that she'd never stumble across it. My name off the lease we shared. Her name gone from every account. I changed passwords, phone numbers, even the music I listened to. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. When you cut a tumor out, you don't leave the scar to remind you. It fades if you let it. I started running again. Reconnected with people I lost touch with. Old friends. The kind who didn't ask questions, just offered a drink and a laugh. I slept deeper. Ate better. Spoke less, but with more weight. I was no longer him. The man she discarded like expired milk. I was sharper. Still. Free. And she felt it. She emailed me once more. Subject line, just 1 minute. I didn't open it. Not because I was bitter. Because I had nothing left to say. Closure isn't a door you shut together. It's a house you burn alone. And walk away from barefoot. She thought I'd always be there in some form. Lingering. Watching. Maybe waiting. But when someone teaches you how little you mean to them, believe them. She had shown me. And I'd listened. The final time I saw her was accidental. Or maybe not. I'll never know. It was a gallery opening downtown. A mutual friend. Someone who hadn't taken sides because he was smart enough to know silence often tells the louder truth. I didn't go to be seen. I went because I liked the artist. Abstract lines. Stark contrasts. Pain without explanation. I was standing near a painting, dark brush strokes, almost violent in shape, when I felt her presence before I saw her. She hadn't changed much. Hair a bit longer. Face a little thinner. Clothes carefully curated for attention. She hesitated when our eyes met, like she wasn't sure if she had the right to look at me. But she did anyway. She walked over. I didn't move. She stood there beside me, pretending to look at the painting. The silence between us felt heavier than the art. Then she spoke, quiet, almost cautious. You look different. I didn't respond. She waited, then added, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. Still, I said nothing. Because what was left to say? The story had already ended. I wasn't there to reopen it. She kept looking at me, like she was searching for some familiar reaction. A flicker of warmth. A nod. Anything that would prove she still held a piece of me. But I didn't flinch. She asked how I was. I told her the truth. I'm at peace. Not happy. Not bitter. Just at peace. And that seemed to hurt her more than any cruel words could. She tried to fill the silence. Talked about therapy, how she'd changed, how she'd learned. But her voice trembled. She wasn't talking to me. She was trying to convince herself that redemption was still an option. I let her finish. Then I said, "You don't owe me anything." She blinked. I continued, "And I don't owe you a second version of myself just so you can feel better." Her face crumbled for a second. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I turned to the painting, stared at it one last time, then looked back at her. "I didn't disappear," I said. "I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected." Then I walked away. No dramatic turn. No backward glance. Just steps forward. The crowd swallowed me whole. She was left standing in front of that canvas, surrounded by strangers and silence. And maybe, just maybe, she realized that the man she once called convenient had become a ghost she'd never outrun. That was the last time I ever saw her. No regrets. No what-ifs. Only clarity. And the quiet power of walking away. Completely, and for good. Real men don't explode. They exit. Subscribe for more power stories.